How good will Aaron Rodgers make the Steelers? How good will the Steelers be?
Well, they're a playoff team now, again.
This is about 2025, pushing all your chips in, and it starts right there with the man on the screen with Aaron Rodgers.
It's not going to last. This is not a 2026 conversation. This is 2025, and it does feel very boom or bust for a team that never rebuilds and always tries to hang in there, but sort of stuck living in the middle right now in that 9 or 10 win range. They're trying to get over that.
Goal is to win a Super Bowl, so we're building this team to win a Super Bowl this year. You know, that's our goal.
For nearly 2 decades now, the Pittsburgh Steelers have lived and died by stability. It's been 18 years of non-losing seasons for one of the league's best coaches, Mike Tomlin, but barely a sniff of a Super Bowl appearance over the last decade. They're always competitive, but never dangerous, earning a reputation as wild card round fodder. But now in 2025, everything is changing. In comes Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Ramsey, and DK Metcalf, a wave of star power for the Steel City. It definitely seems that they're no longer happy to settle for mediocrity, as they've taken things into their own hands and gone all in to get this aging roster a ring. The question now is will it work? And do the Pittsburgh Steelers actually know exactly what they're doing? Now, obviously, the biggest storyline that has followed the Pittsburgh Steelers coming into this season is the arrival of Aaron Rodgers. The 4-time MVP who deprived the black and gold of lifting a Lombardi trophy in the 2010 Super Bowl. With the continuation of Big Ben under center after that Super Bowl, the Steelers remained a genuine threat in the AFC, and while the defense remained hot even after he retired, the offense certainly did not. Kenny Pickett was an abject failure as a Ben Roethlisberger replacement, tossing 13 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in his 2 seasons as the team starter. And well, needless to say, Mike Tomlin and the entire Steelers organization had had enough of Kenny Pickett after that performance. But there was one problem, is that the quality of this defense that the Steelers have always been able to put on the field never quite let them get a pick high enough to try and find Big Ben's proper replacement. Broderick Jones was the team's first-round pick in 2023 at 14th overall, before the team went back to the offensive line with Troy Fontanu at 20th overall in 2024. When a bargain hunting trip for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson again stuck the team in the perfect middle ground of good enough to have a bad draft pick but not good enough to execute a deep playoff run, the Steelers were once again picking in the early 20s in the 2025 NFL draft. And that's the thing too, whether they were completely scared off of just the Shedeur Sanders experiment, whatever you want to call it, or whether they actually knew they were going to get Aaron Rodgers later in this offseason, we may never really know why they didn't take a quarterback there. Instead, they waited till the 6th round to take a speculative shot on Will Howard. Since then, Pickett, Wilson, and Fields have all failed to convince the Steelers front office that they were the saviors that this franchise needed. So in comes Aaron Rodgers, a man who quite literally failed in his role of savior for the New York Jets just last year. And now, don't get me wrong, I know that both of those situations are completely different from each other. As we all know, New York was a totally lost franchise with no leadership anywhere to be seen and was very eager to hand the reins over to their new quarterback immediately. In Pittsburgh, on the other hand, there is no doubt who the top dog is in the locker room, and Rodgers will simply have to fall into line. When he was in New York, the former Packers legend persuaded the Jets to bring in his favorite offensive coordinator and receivers to make him feel comfortable, and I don't think Jets fans feel best pleased about how that all went down. But even after saying all of that too, it kind of seems a little bit risky to pin all of the Steelers' hopes on this guy. And don't get me wrong, I know there are a lot of negative things that have been said about Rodgers, but there are some pretty positive things too that did come out of just the experiment and everything that was going on in New York as well. Look, even in his down season, Aaron Rodgers still passed for 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, which is a lot better than anything the Steelers have had from a statistical perspective in a while. Rodgers still remains one of the sharpest minds in football and can still read and manipulate defenses as well or better than any other quarterback in the NFL. If the Steelers can protect him, which they will be expecting to do, considering their upgrades along the offensive line in the recent years, then Rodgers is still capable of firing the ball into those tight windows. He absolutely has more arm talent and is a more skillful quarterback than what the Steelers have been running out there since Big Ben has retired. The elephant in the room, though, it's the fact that he's now 41 years old. And yes, he is now further removed from that brutal Achilles tear from the 2023 season, but it's clear that he doesn't have anywhere near the mobility that helped make him so special in his heyday. He knows that he doesn't have the elusiveness he needs to avoid pressure, and when you combine that with the increased fear of taking a hit to his aging body, you get a completely different type of quarterback than the Aaron Rodgers of old. His 7.3-yard average depth of target in 2024 is tied for the to face at least 140 snaps in 2024. Similarly, his 2.65 average time to throw in 2024 ranked 33rd, again reflecting his desire to get the ball out as quickly as possible. This now brings us to the pass catchers, who basically Rodgers desperately needs to just basically be on their best to help Rodgers deliver his best as well. Jonnu Smith is the most recent addition as an Arthur Smith favorite, and to be fair, he does match up very well with Rodgers' desire to deliver quick, short passes. Smith is a superb run after the catch option and does make a lot of sense as an addition, offering a potent tight end threat alongside Pat Freiermuth. The most significant move, though, was the decision to trade for DK Metcalf and give him a 5-year, $150 million contract, paving the way for George Pickens to be traded away to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, look, it was becoming apparent that Pickens was wearing thin in the Steelers' locker room, delivering one too many distractions and on-field punch-ups. In Metcalf, the Steelers are hoping they found a similar skill set at the X-receiver position, but with a little less volatility. And don't get me wrong either, because the former Seahawk himself has been known for some hot-headed moments, but his quality is undeniable, notching at least 900 on the final drive of a game, transferring as much of the blame onto him as possible.
Oh, there's two verticals, Allen's down the seam, Mike's down the red line. So I'm looking at Allen, he puts his hand up, 3 guys go with him, so I'm throwing a no-look to the red line. And when I just peek my eyes back there, he's running an inbreaker. So it's got to be down the red line. No, I was throwing it to the red line, but when I got to about here, I realized he was running an inbreaker, so I had to kind of adjust it a little bit. But the play is 2 guys vertical, 1 guy down the seam, 1 guy on the red line.
And the reason this is relevant is that DK was noticeably sloppier with his route running in 2024. If we take a look at this back, kind of sloppiness isn't going to fly with Aaron Rodgers and makes you question how this offense really is going to work in 2025. Especially seeing as Rodgers also doesn't seem to fit with the offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, who likes to execute a run-heavy, play-action-based offense from under center. This is basically the polar opposite to Rodgers, who wants to keep everything as simple and static as possible so that he can survey the defense and figure out how he wants to attack them. When playing with Nathaniel Hackett as offensive coordinator in Green Bay and New York, Rodgers had a lot of freedom to call his own plays and make his own adjustments, but it seems unlikely he will have that freedom in Smith's run-heavy offense in Pittsburgh. And I mean, look, to be frank, aside from Metcalf, the overall Steelers wide receiver room does look fairly weak as well. Robert Woods is a reliable veteran who will be in the right place at the right time and will block his butt off, but Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skronowski don't exactly fill you with hope of a potent passing attack. Steeler fans will be praying for a Roman Wilson breakout in his sophomore season after missing his entire rookie campaign. Of course, Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth do offer up one of the most exciting tight end partnerships in the NFL, and the running back stable is fantastically balanced after the draft. Caleb Johnson was the team's heavily predicted 3rd-round pick, coming in to replace Najee Harris and hopefully offering a bit more explosiveness. Johnson averaged 6.4 yards per carry for his 1,537 yards and 21 touchdowns at Iowa in 2024, ready to shoulder the load for the Steelers team that will likely run the ball a lot. Behind him, Jalen Warren is one of the better change of pace backs in the league, and free agent acquisition Kenneth Gainwell is another good option to have as a receiving back. Frankly, if we're just looking at this team from the offensive side of the ball, the outcomes are pretty much everywhere. They might be 6-10, they might be 9-8, they might be 10-7. Nobody really knows. It just all comes down to just really how well this offense does gel. Right now, though, Steelers fans are praying that Aaron Rodgers comes in and works well in his offense and does what he couldn't do in New York, delivers slightly above league average quarterback play to fulfill the potential of this defense and coaching staff. Alternatively, though, he will clash with the system, throw his teammates under the bus, and fail to make them anything more than playoff fodder yet again. Regardless of how that goes on the offensive side of the ball, and I mean, truthfully, them not falling too far into a good draft pick because of that offense, it's going to be because the defense is just absolutely dominating week in and week out, like we know the Steelers have been able to do for the past 10 years. TJ Watt did just sign his 3-year extension worth $123 million, meaning he will be extra motivated to continue thriving within this epic defensive line that also features Cameron Hayward, Keanu Benton, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig. Running on this unit was not an option in 2024, with them holding opponents to 98.7 yards per game on the ground, which ranks 6th in the NFL. They then got even stronger through the arrival of first-round rookie Derek Harmon, who is an absolute menace in the run game and as a pass rusher. Harmon's ceiling is as high as any defensive tackle in the 2025 class, and he couldn't have asked for a better landing spot than Pittsburgh. Here he can learn alongside the legendary Cam Hayward, and then Jack Sawyer and Yaya Black then added more firepower and depth as edge defenders in rounds 4 and 5. The most significant change though in this defense came in the secondary, surprisingly. Minkah Fitzpatrick was shipped off to Miami in exchange for Jalen Ramsey and the formidable Jonnu Smith. While Fitzpatrick might seem like the more appealing asset due to his age at 28 years old, reports since the trade seem to point to him being a locker room issue and potentially the focus of frustration among teammates from an effort perspective. Meanwhile, Jalen Ramsey could still possibly be a beast. Yes, he might be 31 years old, but he still plays with impressive physicality and can still be a game changer. With Darius Slade coming in as another veteran quarterback and Juan Thornhill arriving as a quality safety, having just spent 6 years with the Browns. Just after going over those acquisitions on the defensive side of the ball too, this defense is primed and ready for another great year on that side of the ball. And that's the thing too, if the offense can start to click with Aaron Rodgers and just gel completely together with everybody they have on that side of the ball, then why can't the Steelers break their wild card round just troubles that they've had this year? The big question that everybody does want to know though is how high is their ceiling truthfully? Well, we have already spoken about Aaron Rodgers' limitations as a quarterback nowadays, particularly from a mobility perspective, and how his game has transitioned into a much shorter, quicker passing preference. With him now under center and with this lackluster receiving core, not to mention the potential chemistry issues that might have come from the clash in the system or his lack of time spent with these receivers, can we really see the Steelers toppling AFC powerhouses such as the Bills, Ravens, or Chiefs? The other concerning factor for Steelers fans is the common trend of aging players across key positions all over the rosters. Injuries can impact any team, but having this many players in their 30s and a 40-year-old quarterback surely makes the prospects of everyone being healthy in January even lower. And we all know that health is an incredibly influential factor in helping a team go all the way. There is currently a lot of money going to these players, making this feel like an all-in campaign for the Steelers. It seems like a true Super Bowl or bust situation before turning this team over to a new quarterback and starting over completely. But if that's the case, how does another draft pick in the 20s scream long-term success? Kenny Pickett is literally a living and breathing example of what kind of quarterback you're going to find drafting at that spot. And now, yes, the Steelers have had a lot of draft capital that they have been able to bring in and just kind of guys that they are able to try and turn over when the time does come to try and rebuild this roster. But if we've learned anything about the recent seasons is that it's really, really hard to try and move up into that top 10 spot to try and draft a quarterback, and you're going to have to give up a substantial amount. In 2024, the Giants were unable to move up from 6 overall to select Drake May, and the Raiders have frequently missed out, forcing them into the Geno Smith trade. The bottom line is nothing is guaranteed in the NFL draft, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks, when you are likely negotiating with teams who are equally desperate at that position. In terms of the 2025 season though, the Aaron Rodgers signing at the very least does make the Steelers a very intriguing watch, and there certainly is a lot more upside than in recent seasons with a miserable collection of quarterbacks under center. The question now though is, how high is that upside this season?